direct consequence of radical Islamic terrorism. It's a direct consequence of the group that Iran is funding. And it will only get worse, as you will see, from North Africa to the Middle East, the chaos and oppression. That these jihadists who are evil, we should not be giving over $100 billion to the Ayatollah Khamenei, who has pledged death to America. We should not be giving him the means to carry through on that homicidal promise.
Senator,
will they be able to get the bomb anyway?
Can you actually stop this? I mean, you know, we know why you're here, but how do you actually stop it?
The most effective means of stopping this deal is if Republican leadership, if Speaker Boehner and Leader McConnell heed my call to stand up and say, under the terms of federal law, under terms of the Corker-Cardin review legislation, the clock for congressional review does not begin until the administration has submitted the entire deal. And indeed, Corker-Cardin defines the entire deal to include any and all side agreements. There are at least 2 side agreements with the IAEA for the incredibly weak, even the farcical inspection regimes. If Boehner and McConnell together say the clock has not begun, the consequence of that is, under the terms of Corker-Cardin, it is illegal for Obama to lift sanctions. He cannot lift sanctions until the congressional review period runs. That's the way we can stop it. Because Senate Democrats have decided to value party loyalty above national security, it's incumbent.
If we don't sign the deal, will they get the...
Under the terms of Corker-Cardin, the clock starts when the administration submits the entire deal, including the side agreements. And it has not done so. And I would note, there was something I said on that stage that I think is particularly consequential as well. As you think forward of the chess game of the moves of the various players, what I believe the Senate should do is, number one, McConnell and Boehner should stand up together and say the clock hasn't started, and therefore under Corker-Cardin lifting the sanctions is illegal. Number two, the Senate ought to bring up this deal as a treaty and vote it down. A treaty
Absolutely.
Takes 2/3 to ratify. We ought to vote it down. But number three, we can anticipate what President Obama would do next. After 6.5 the president would simply decree sanctions are lifted anyway, regardless of what federal law says. And that's why the point I made on that stage is so important. Because for every financial institution, every CEO, both American and European, in possession of billions of dollars of frozen Iranian assets, if they release those funds, they will be liable both civilly and criminally for violating federal law. And just because President Obama decrees you don't have to follow federal law does not immunize those financial institutions from civil lawsuits seeking billions of dollars, and even more consequentially from criminal prosecution in a subsequent administration for willfully violating federal criminal statutes. Under Corker-Cardin, if the review period hasn't run, it is illegal to lift the sanctions, and every financial institution is bound by that.
Is there a larger message than just this?
Out of their minds. We keep winning elections. Conservatives keep winning elections, and nothing changes. And we're fed up with the Washington cartel. As you know, I just wrote a book a couple of months ago called A Time for Truth, where I talk at great length about what I call the Washington cartel, career politicians in both parties who get in bed with special interests and lobbyists and grow and grow and grow Washington. We are fed up with empty show votes, whether it's a show vote on Iran, a show vote on Planned Parenthood, a show vote on amnesty, a show vote on Obamacare. No more show votes. There are Republican majorities in both houses of Congress. We need to act like it. We need to actually honor the commitments we've made. That's what I'm calling on every Republican to do, is simply do what you said you would do.
Why wasn't it treated as a treaty?
Wouldn't it be the same result? Democrats are not going to move off their support of this deal. One. And two, the president would argue it's not a treaty because it was negotiated multilaterally, and you cannot commit other nations to a treaty process in this country. Okay. Can you address those two points?
The second point is just factually wrong as a legal matter. There are multilateral treaties you can have all the time that can be ratified by Congress. Ratification doesn't bind foreign countries, it binds us. It is the process. The Constitution sets out 2 ways laws are passed in this country. One, They're passed through a majority of both houses of Congress and signed into law by the President. And the second is a treaty negotiated by the President is ratified by 2/3 of the Senate. If Republican leadership brings this up as a treaty, it will fail. There are not 2/3 votes to do so. But that vote will put everyone on record where they stand. Now, voting it down as a treaty...
Corker-Cardin doesn't avail them of that possibility, doesn't it? If you want to hold on to Corker-Cardin, doesn't that take away the treaty option?
You can do both. Corker-Cardin remains the law of the land. I think it is valuable to vote it down as a treaty to demonstrate where everyone stands. But Corker-Cardin was passed into law. It is in the United States Code. And under the explicit terms of Corker-Cardin, sanctions cannot be lifted. The President lacks the legal authority to lift sanctions until the expiration of the congressional review period because he refused to hand over the side agreements. The congressional review period hasn't started yet.
Can Iran get the deal anyway if we don't sign?
All right.
So if you disagree with the procedure, would you vote to filibuster when the cloture vote comes up? If you disagree with the procedure that stands right now?
Of course not. Under no circumstances, the Democrats are irresponsibly trying to fill in.
I'm sorry.